In the 1840s, things were different for women compared to today. Women back then were under the protection and authority of their husbands. They did not have the same freedom women have today. Women didn't have the authority for casting votes. Men controlled their finances, children, and property. It began in 1848. Two abolitionists who met at London's World Anti-Slavery Convention in 1848, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, gathered others together to state a problem that they thought was not mentioned enough. Elizabeth and Lucretia both had clear motives to get their point across about women's rights. They thought that the way they were treated wasn't right and they had to do something about it. Elizabeth and Lucretia wanted to do something about this, so they set up a convention and spread the word around. Soon, many other women were alerted of this movement, in which they decided to take a stand for this subject. They set up a place to hold a women's rights convention in Wesleyan Chapel in Seneca Falls. The word spread around quick, and soon many people knew about this petition. The women taking a stand for this petition had to go through many legal documents to make this happen. They had many people sign their petition and documents to take a stand for their rights. Soon enough, many other women could relate to what they were stating and decided to join in on this petition. The convention assembled James Mott, E.C. Stanton, Lucretia Mott, Ansel Bascom, S.E. Woodworth, Thomas and Marianne McClintock, Frederick Douglass, Amy Post, Catherine Stebbins, and Elizabeth C. Stanton. There was a list of 11 resolutions, which said women to be regarded as men's equal. The resolution said for Americans to regard any laws that had placed any woman in a subordinate position to men to having no force or authority. They had women to have equal rights within the church and equal access to jobs. The 9th resolution was the most disputed, as it called women to secure to themselves their sacred right to the elective franchise or the right to vote. Although this led many women's rights to remove their support, the 9th resolution went on to become the beginning of the women's suffrage movement. 2 weeks later, on August 2nd, 1848, the Seneca Falls Convention reconvened at the First Unitarian Church of Rochester, New York, to reconfirm the goals with a larger audience. In the following years, the convention's leaders continued to promote and campaign for the women's rights at state and nationwide events. They frequently referred to the Declaration of Sentiments as they campaigned for women's rights. The Declaration of Sentiments, written by Elizabeth C. Stanton, let women have equal access to education as well as jobs like men. It also allowed women to have more power within the church and to control property and money. She mostly focused on the social, civil, and religious conditions of a woman. While the vote was not originally the main goal of the reformers, suffrage became central to the women's rights movement in the 1860s. This showed how the United States government has persecuted women by not granting them rights that all men had been given. The turning point came in the late 1880s and early 1890s when the nation experienced an outpouring of volunteerism among women activists in progressive causes, members of women's clubs and professional societies, temperance advocates, and participants in local civic and charity organizations. The determination of these women to grow what they did outside of their homes really helped legitimize the suffrage movement and provided new. By 1890, to capitalize their newfound constituency, the two groups united to form the National American Woman Suffrage Association, NAWSA, led initially by Elizabeth C. Stanton and then by Anthony. On June 4, 1919, the 19th Amendment was finally passed by Congress that women were allowed to vote. This was a momentous occasion, but even then, this battle was not over. It would continue for many years, and even till this day, women don't have the same rights as a regular man.